bring in former Canadian diplomat and Professor Gordon Houlden. Want to get your take to what we saw there at the White House. Mark Carney standing firm, reiterating in front of everyone that Canada is not for sale and never will be the 51st state. So given what we've seen, nothing really came out of this meeting. Do you think we could see something in the days ahead between these two countries?
I think in the weeks and months ahead, we could see something. What was accomplished, I think, in this meeting, and which contrasted with the atmospherics, as we understand it, between former Prime Minister Trudeau and President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, is that the comments from the U.S. president were very positive. Prime Minister is a good man, congratulated him on his election victory. That part of the meeting was, I thought, very positive and necessary if there is going to be forward movement in negotiating tariffs. What was less positive, one could argue, is that on actual tariff issues, Trump, either for rhetorical reasons, he may well believe it, would say, for example, during this Oval Office meeting, well, we don't need the Canadian market, these connections are unimportant, whereas in fact we know that the U.S. exports more to Canada than to any other country, So the business people and consumers in the U.S. have a different view. But I still take away the glass is half full. There was no meltdown like with President Zelensky from Ukraine in the Oval Office. Presumably, after this meeting, when they retreated to go have lunch, a luncheon meeting with key U.S. and Canadian ministers, and secretaries of cabinet, that there will have been some better understanding. And there was there was tension, yes, over this issue of 51st state. That one never sits well with Canadians. But the Prime Minister gave back, pushed back when he heard those words. So I take this as a glass half full, but clearly a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, we know that Prime Minister Carney arrived to Washington post-election victory. So in that sense, does he have the momentum, any kind of leverage if they go behind closed doors to talk more trade? And can Canada really afford not to make some sort of deal with the United States?
Well, we need a deal with the United States. I mean, leverage is great, but the reality is that our economy is 1/10 the size of the United States. So U.S., as in its relationship with most countries, I would argue China accepted, has superior leverage. However, the U.S. consumers, we're going to be facing sharp cost increases. U.S. businesses are going through a shocking reevaluation of their prospects for both inputs and for their export markets. So it's in the U.S. interest to reach a deal with Canada, but for us, for Canada, it is a primordial interest. For us, we have no alternative but to have no good alternative, to have some accommodation with the United States on tariffs.
We know that Canada is playing host to the upcoming G7 summit. Trump has not committed to attending at the moment, but as Canada hosts this, Mark Carney leading this, what do you think the main messages will be to all the other countries and leaders at the table?
Well, the United States is the most powerful participant in the G7. The last G7 meeting that was hosted by Canada was attended by President Trump. Prime Minister Trudeau was the host. It did not go well at all, and you ended up with exactly what you don't want before the media, criticisms and controversy in front of the cameras. I'm hoping and seeing how successful I think Prime Minister Carney was in this instance. It should go much smoother. But we can guarantee that with the senior European, Japanese, other G7 members present in Kananaskis in June, the U.S. will be, at least in its public commentaries, dismissive of the U.S. need for foreign markets, lauding their huge tariff increases, etc. I'm hoping behind closed doors, when the cameras aren't rolling, however, that you will have between the heads of government and between senior officials present a more pragmatic give and take on the mutual benefits of trade.
And quickly, just a couple of seconds left, how do you anticipate other governments watching around the world how this meeting here in Washington between Trump and Carney is going to play out, and if there's anything they can learn from it?
I think every head of government and their offices, prime minister's offices, president's offices, are studying each one of these. The trick is to avoid the Zelensky antecedent. This is, I say, again, glass half full. Sometimes with close U.S. allies, like El Salvador, Israel, you have entirely positive atmospherics, but I thought this one wasn't bad. And I suspect others, other countries, Europe, Asia, and elsewhere, will be studying what happened here and hoping for the best possible outcome in that goldfish bowl that is the Oval Office.
Gordon Houlden, we appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for joining us from British
Thank you, Elaine.
Columbia.